Welcome everybody to the Wudi 3. We only got 3 of these left this season. It's kind of sad that we know it's a finite number of how many Woody 3s we have left. There has never been a playoff Woody 3, and we already know that there won't be one this year. Probably not next year, maybe the year after that. We'll see what happens. But for right here, right now, the year that we're living in, this is the third to last Woody 3. We're going to make it a good one. Week 16, facing the Saints, New Orleans. Yeah, I mean, for me, there's still plenty of things to look at. 3 things worth looking at. That's what the Woody 3 is all about. And there's still a lot of things worth looking at. I know a lot of you might not even watch the game. You're just going to be like, oh, tell me they lost. Tell me they lost. Right? That's what you guys are worried about. Thinking about the guy from Indy, Fernando. But for me, I'm crazy enough to still want to root for this team to win. And there are still some things, outside of the win that I think are worth looking at right now. Shout out to Garrett Wilson. I would have loved to see him return to the field. I know I am in the absolute minority. I don't think I've ever actually heard another human being say that, they would have loved for Garrett to play this season. But, it just would have been nice to see, with AD, those speedsters on the outside. We got Mechie as well. Would have just been cool to see. And, his numbers, I feel so bad, right? He started off with all those 1,000-yard seasons. Now he had 397, which is still low-key the team lead in receiving yards for the Jets. He still leads in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns, which I don't know if you would say that's a nod to Garrett or not to how bad this season has gone for the Jets. But I would have loved to see him build on that, on his numbers, just for his career, his legacy as a Jet. I mean, I think we're all assuming that when he hangs it up, he will be one of the greatest Jets receivers of all time. So I would have loved to see him, continue to climb up the record books in yardage and touchdowns this season. But I completely understand, obviously, why they chose not to go that route. So let's look at what's worth observing with the players that actually are playing. And we're going to start with Breece Hall. I actually did this a couple of games ago, 166, heading into the Dolphins game. Since then, only, 66 yards were gained in those 2 games. And that is, alarming. That is alarming. Breece Hall, he was on pace for 1,254 rushing yards this season. Now, 3 games left. We are, 100 yards away still. He started off the season fantastic, a few 100-yard games, a few 80-yard games, but that win in he has not reached 80 yards since. And in what is this, 4 out of those 5 games, he's had under 4 yards per carry, including 1.9 last game. So his efficiency has completely plummeted. It is at rock bottom. If you smell what the Rock is cooking, he is at rock bottom right now. And I'm going to need him to pick it up. And I know it might be a mixed bag, across the fan base. Is he even going to be a Jet next year? What's happening. I would love for him to be a Jet. I'm a fan of the player, but I'm not going to prop him up and act like, he's been spectacular the second half of the season. It's been rough. The second half. And, if he's going to get to that 1,000-yard mark and finally get that monkey off his back, he's going to need to put some elbow grease in it. Luckily, he's facing a team that is 26th in the NFL in allowing rushing yards. All right, they allow over 130 a game. They also have been pretty stingy against the pass. So when you put those together, okay, they're tough to pass on, They have struggled to defend the run. So what are we going to do? We're going to run the football. We're going to protect Brady Cook. So while I would imagine that also means Isaiah Davis is getting some burn, hopefully what that means is Brees Hall can get a huge chunk of yardage, a huge chunk of that 100 yards needed in this game. He could even, I mean, he's gotten 100 yards in multiple games before. Maybe he can even get all 100, right now. And then these next two games are just icing on the cake. But, hopefully we're not looking at another 1.9 yard per carry, 30-yard game. That would be disgusting. And that would really have me actually questioning, if you were to do that this game, 30 yards, 1.9 yards per carry, it would actually have me questioning if we should even entertain bringing him back, because that's just not that's a level of inconsistency that is actually not going to help a rookie QB if, we can't actually generate runs on the ground. But we've already seen him be spectacular. We've seen him be fantastic. I just don't think he's being used in the pass game enough. We see when he has been used, he's been incredible, but then for some reason, he really hasn't been a part of that game planning. But even so, that would be inexcusable, especially against this team that's allowing 130 rushing yards per game. So Brees, I'm expecting at least 50 yards. Would love to see 4 yards per carry. I'll settle for 3.5 and above. So 3.5 and above and 50 yards. That would make me feel good about his chances of getting that 1,000-yard season, that monkey off his back. It would make me feel good about trying to extend him these next couple of seasons. And I do want him to be a Jet, but even me being a fan of the player, I'm not blind to see that, it's been a little bit of a struggle recently. So let's see if he can turn it around against a team that, has been easier to run on than others. Number 2, the Wilkes is dead. All right. The wicked Wilkes of the East. As Sharon calls him, Steve Wilkes Booth, right? He is gone. He is gone. And Boy Green, he asked me earlier this week in Boy Green Meets Wudi, is there a change? Right, we still got the same players out there, same playbook, same everything. And no, I pushed back. I said the philosophy is different, the mantra is different, execution is different. Steve Wilkes was telling people, trust the system, trust the scheme, and his system stunk. Okay, now we got Chris Harris, a former player. You're still working with guys like All-Pro Quincy Williams. Forget about, trust in this. Trust your instinct, all right? Read the field, see what's going on, react, help get guys in the right position. And, Quincy, he was, mentored by the great C.J. Mosley. I would trust that guy's instincts 10 out of 10 times and not rely on some scheme that clearly has not worked, has not been working, never worked for this Jets team. And yeah, I would lean that way. So if there's a mantra change, a philosophy change like that, that would be amazing. But even so, 31 points at half is absolutely disgusting. It is disgusting against this Saints team. I don't know how many points you expect. Tyler Shuck has been, playing pretty well recently. But 31 points and a half would be disgusting if that's what the Saints did. So I'm not expecting that at all. I think just the addition by subtraction of getting rid of Steve Wilkes Booth, I think the Jets defense will look better. And then, of course, if they were to, adopt a new philosophy in these last 3 games, who knows? They could even be a good defensive team. So all the stats that are in there, all how ugly it got with Steve Wilkes that led to his firing, I do think they're going to turn that around a little bit with Chris Harris and give us some hope, just because it's a new guy, it's a new breath of fresh air, and hopefully he's, allowing them to kind of break free from just being robots in a scheme. Number 3, Hull and Void. I knew I was going to talk about this topic It took me a little bit of time to name it. I can't lie. The Saints have suffered injuries to their top three running backs. That's actually very crazy. On the Jet side, that would be losing Brees, Braylon Allen, and Isaiah Davis, which would be crazy. I guess Donovan Edwards will get some run, but for the Saints in losing their guys, now that means that Evan Hull and Audric Estime are their top options, and you would hope that this would mean that the Jets have a leg up on their opponent to stop these. Now, they have been terrible against the run all year. And some of the names that they got cooked up by are the best running backs in the league. Bijan Robinson, Travion Henderson is fantastic. He's a front runner for Rookie of the Year. These names, Estime, Hull, they are not household names. They're not elite names. They're not top names. Again, they're not even the top three running backs on their own team. So for them to cook up the Jets defense would be a huge problem. And of course, would open things up for Tyler Shuck, who has been wheeling and dealing, throwing it to Chris Olave and Jawan Johnson and all that. So I think this is an area for the Jets to assert themselves, to beat these guys up, RB4 and 5, beat them up, force Tyler Shuck into third and long type situations, right? Which obviously the average QB, struggles in such situations, and Shuck is no different. A rookie, force all these third and long situations, and keep getting the ball back to our offense so that Brady can cook and Brees can do his thing. So that's pretty much the main thing that I'm looking for is Brees. How much can you cut into this 100-yard gap between your current total and 1,000? That monkey off the back. Steve Wilkes is dead. Well, not dead, but fired. And Chris Harris, what are you going to do to, and you have a chance to, earn this job. So, what are you going to do to help make this defense look decent? And then Hull and Void, I mean, the same. It's a clear bullseye on the depth chart is that they are weak at this position. Can we take advantage and force them to play an uncomfortable game all game, which would then in turn help us play a comfortable game? So that's the Wudi 3. Let's go. Still rooting for this team. Still rooting for wins. Don't hate me for that, please. And, hey, we're going to be talking. Let's go, Jets. Jets. Jets, Jets, Jets.